We all know what Egypt's pyramids look like on the outside, but what do they look like on the inside? Narrow passageways, spacious chambers and steep galleries make up the bulk of the interior layouts. Relics from the pyramids are on display in museums around the world and in Giza's Grand Egyptian Museum, opening late spring 2024, while the surrounding tombs contained untold wonders too. Secrets of the Pharaohs, inside Egypt's pyramids and tombs. Khufu Pyramid, Giza. The Great Pyramids of Giza complex consists of 3 pyramids, each named after the king they contained, Khufu, Khafre and Menkaure. The Khufu Pyramid is the largest of the 3, standing at a height of 482 feet, 147 meters. It was constructed between 2550 and 2490 BC, using a whopping 2.3 million stone blocks. Khufu ruled between 2589 and 2566 BC and was the second pharaoh of the 4th dynasty. In 1954, a dismantled wooden ship was discovered buried next to the pyramid, a common inclusion as ancient Egyptians believed these vessels would transport their kings to the afterlife. As the pharaoh was believed to be the earthly representation of Ra, the sun god, they were called solar boats. Until 2021, Khufu's ship was housed in its very own solar boat museum, not far from where it was first discovered, but it has now been moved to the new Grand Egyptian Museum, set to open to the public in late spring 2024. Another aspect of the Khufu pyramid overlooked during early explorations was a network of subterranean passages, commonly referred to as the pit. In the 18th century, the rubble blocking the descending passageway was cleared away, and a Greek or Roman character was subsequently discovered on one of the tunnel ceilings. It might not look like the most striking discovery, but it seemingly confirmed the Greek historian Herodotus's accounts that the pyramid's interior was accessible during the ancient Roman period. For such a grand pyramid, very few artifacts were discovered, just 3 items, in fact. Commonly referred to as the Dixon Relics, named after Wayneman Dixon, who found them in 1872, the items consist of a granite sphere, a forked copper instrument and a wooden slat. The forked instrument may once have included a bone or wooden handle and was likely used to manipulate rope, while the granite sphere worked as a pounder. The wooden slat, meanwhile, went missing for more than a century, and was only rediscovered in 2020 when a curatorial assistant at the University of Aberdeen stumbled across the item hidden in a cigar tin. Interestingly, the slat was carbon dated to 500 years before the supposed construction of the pyramid, posing new questions about when it was actually built. In March 2023, a 4,500-year-old chamber was discovered in the Khufu pyramid. Located using high-tech equipment, the corridor, which measures 30 feet, 9 meters, long and over 6 feet, 1.8 meters, wide, is found close to the northern side of the ancient pyramid's main entrance. The room cannot be accessed from outside. This photo was taken by feeding a tiny camera through cracks in the masonry, and archaeologists are still trying to figure out its purpose. Meidum Pyramid, Meidum. Located roughly 62 miles, 99 kilometers, from Cairo, the Meidum Pyramid was built during the reign of King Sneferu, the first pharaoh of the 4th dynasty, 2613 to 2589 BC. The Meidum Pyramid was Egypt's first straight-sided pyramid, affectionately said by some to resemble a sandcastle, and it's often described as a false pyramid. Numerous construction issues meant it was never completed, so its appearance is noticeably different to other Egyptian pyramids. Entering the Meidum Pyramid takes visitors along a steep passageway, 56 feet, 17 m, in length, leading down to what would have been the burial chamber. Here, the sarcophagus, a large stone-built coffin usually displayed on ground level, would have held the mummified pharaoh. Except there's nothing there. The burial chamber was never completed, there are no human remains, and there's no valley temple, a place where the royal mummy was received, which was a standard inclusion in royal ancient Egyptian burials. The Meidum geese painting was discovered in a tomb beside the Meidum Pyramid, and is now on display at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. The wall painting features 6 geese, 2 pairs facing away from each other at the center, and 1 goose at each end picking at the grass. Natural pigments included white from limestone, red from hematite and green from malachite, and would have been mixed with egg white emulsifier. Although a faster paint and plaster approach was applied in this part of the painting, you can still admire the exceptional level of detail. It was discovered on the north wall in the tomb chapel of Ited, daughter-in-law of King Sneferu and wife to his son, Nefermot. It would have been part of a larger scene in the tomb. While the original wall painting is on display at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, there's also a replica on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Bent Pyramid, Dahshur. Dahshur is an ancient plateau located some 20 miles, 32 kilometers, south of Cairo. Here you'll find the Bent Pyramid, the second pyramid built by King Sneferu, who added to his straight-sided pyramid at Meidum with another unusual edifice. A number of construction issues gave the pyramid its odd shape, with the lower half rising at an angle of 54 degrees to 154 feet, 47 meters, before suddenly switching to a 43-degree angle. Following a lengthy closure for structural works, the Bent Pyramid's interior finally reopened to the public in 2019. One of the more recent discoveries at the Bent Pyramid was made in 2021 by Neith, an author and tour leader. He revealed in a YouTube video that there was some graffiti dating to the pyramid's rediscovery by the western entrance. It was left by Egyptologist John Shea Perring, who started his exploration of the pyramid in September 1839. Neith also managed to document a real-life Indiana Jones trap, a stone gate that would have been lowered across the passageway to block the entrance. In 2019, a number of mummies were located in and around the Bent Pyramid. Most of the mummies were in excellent condition, having been preserved inside stone, clay and wooden sarcophagi. The finds also included a number of funerary masks, all of which dated to the late period, 664–332 BC, much later than Sneferu's 25th century BC reign. The late period is widely considered one of the last eras of true Egyptian rule before the Persians invaded around 525 BC. Alongside the 2019 reopening, visitors can also now visit a smaller, adjoining pyramid. It's believed that this is where Queen Hedefires I, the wife of Sneferu, mother of Khufu, was buried. It's the first time this pyramid has been open to the public since it was first excavated in 1956. Excavations at the site are still ongoing, but a visit to the Bent Pyramid is a great way to get a behind-the-scenes look at how the pyramids were laid out, and how they differed from one another. Khafre Pyramid, Giza. Khafre Pyramid is the second largest pyramid in the Pyramids of Giza complex. King Khafre, 2558–2532 BC, built this pyramid next to his father Khufu's, and it's situated 33 feet, 10 m, higher on the plateau than the Khufu Pyramid, making it look deceptively larger than its taller neighbor. Built roughly between 2520 and 2494 BC, the top of the pyramid maintains its outer casing of limestone while the rest has worn away, leaving it looking a little like a snow-capped mountain. It's widely believed that the Great Sphinx in front of the pyramid was built for Khafre too. A number of life-sized and bigger than life-sized statues discovered at Khafre Pyramid are now on display at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. One of the most well-known is the Khafre enthroned. This funerary statue was discovered beneath the floor of the Valley Temple, and was supposed to provide a place of rest for Khafre's soul. Carved out of a single block of stone, the throne on which Khafre is seated features lion paws, hieroglyphics, a royal cobra and the Egyptian god Horus. The pharaoh is also wearing a lined headdress. All these motifs symbolize his mighty power. Unfortunately, the Khafre pyramid was robbed repeatedly by tomb raiders over the years, dating back to Pharaoh Ramesses II himself, who is said to have lifted sections of the pyramid's limestone casing for his own temple. In the absence of artifacts, although a few were recovered, historians have analyzed the different materials used for the pyramid. Granite cladding was used in the upper descending passageway, and there are gabled limestone beams supporting the burial chamber. Djoser Pyramid, Saqqara. Possibly Egypt's strangest looking pyramid, the Djoser Pyramid is located in Saqqara in the ancient capital of Memphis. Djoser, 2650–2575 BC, was the first pharaoh to use stone in a pyramid's construction. Before this, royal tombs were simple rectangular monuments made from clay bricks called mastabas. The bizarre, tiered structure is the work of the architect Imhotep, who stacked the mastabas to create this step pyramid 204 feet, 62 m, high and the first of its kind. Djoser's sarcophagus was laid deep inside the burial chamber, along with 40,000 stone vessels, bowls and urns of various sizes. They were all inscribed with the names of pharaohs from the 1st and 2nd dynasties, which is curious because Djoser was one of the first kings of the 3rd dynasty. While it's still not completely understood why they were found here, some believe that the earlier pharaohs' own tombs were robbed, and in order to protect their souls Djoser collected their urns and sealed them inside his own tomb. A series of beautiful blue and green tiles were uncovered in the pyramid's galleries and burial chamber. These once lined the walls to imitate the decorative sheets of reeds that would originally have hung in the king's royal palace, while the blue and green colors symbolized rebirth. The ceramic tiles were created in the faience glazing style, and restored sections are on display at the Imhotep Museum in Saqqara and the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Prior to much-needed restoration work in 2006, the Djoser pyramid was on the verge of collapse. The work included reassembling and restoring the granite sarcophagus, adding paved floors to the cemetery, installing a lighting system and adding a ladder to access the cemetery and well. The walls and ceilings were also strengthened, and more faience tiles were installed. The Djoser pyramid finally reopened to the public in 2020, allowing visitors to again experience one of Egypt's most important UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Red Pyramid, Dahshur. Like the Bent Pyramid, the Red Pyramid is located on the ancient plateau of Dahshur, roughly 25 miles, 40 kilometers, south of Cairo. Although the pyramid was once covered with white limestone, the casing was later removed, exposing the rust-colored stone beneath and giving it the nickname we use today. Built for the pharaoh Sneferu, exactly how long it took to build is still disputed, but construction is likely to have taken place between 2575 and 2551 BC. Sometimes known as the North Pyramid due to its position half a mile north of the Bent Pyramid, the Red Pyramid is the 3rd largest in Egypt after the pyramids of Khufu and Khafre in Giza. It's still celebrated as the first true pyramid due to its sloping sides and lack of steps. Visitors today can explore its fascinating 4,000-year history by stepping inside and viewing the magnificent burial chamber. The Red Pyramid's passageways and chambers are unique among Egyptian pyramids. All 3 of the main chambers feature corbelled, bracketed ceilings, supporting the roughly 2 million tons of stone above. Unlike other pyramids that have collapsed or needed restoration work, such as the Bent and Djoser pyramids, to this day the Red Pyramid hasn't suffered any structural issues, not even a crack. Even more unusual is the location of the second chamber, which is found directly beneath the apex, or center point, of the pyramid. No other pyramid uses this design. While the final chamber has been made accessible to modern visitors through the addition of a staircase, excavations haven't located any further passageways inside the pyramid. Menkaure Pyramid, Giza. The Menkaure Pyramid is the last and smallest of the 3 Great Pyramids of Giza, standing at just 213 feet, 65 m, tall. Completed in the 26th century BC, it was built for King Menkaure, and sits on the same plateau as the pyramids of his father, Khafre, and grandfather, Khufu. Many statues from inside the tomb depict Menkaure accompanied by gods and other figures. One grey-wax stone statue recovered from the pyramid depicts Menkaure and his wife standing side by side. It's a classic example of Old Kingdom royal tomb sculpture, with both the king's arms down by his sides and with one leg stepped forward. Userkaf Pyramid, Saqqara. The Userkaf Pyramid doesn't quite have the same wow factor as some of its fellows on this list, but it does have an interesting history. King Userkaf, 2494–2487 BC, was the first pharaoh of the 5th dynasty, and chose to build his pyramid at Saqqara, where the local limestone is much thinner than it is at other tomb locations like Giza. This, along with weak structuring, later led the pyramid to collapse, earning itself the unfortunate moniker, Heap of Stone. Visitors today can see that it more resembles a conical hill than an impressive royal pyramid. While much of the Userkaf pyramid remains unexcavated, a number of funerary stone reliefs were recovered from the king's funerary temple. These would have been placed along the courtyard walls, and included hunting, fishing and nature scenes which were common depictions in 5th dynasty royal temples. One limestone relief depicts birds in a papyrus thicket, two intricately carved birds in a marsh along the Nile, and the names of Upper and Lower Egyptian estates connected to the cult of Userkaf. The reliefs would have been colorfully painted. In 2018, archaeologists discovered a number of tombs on the edge of the Userkaf pyramid complex containing not only sarcophagi but also mummified cats. Animals were mummified as religious offerings, and the ancient Egyptians believed cats held special positions in the afterlife. In total, 3 tombs contained mummified cats, with one featuring a large bronze statue of a cat dedicated to a goddess. They also found mummified scarab beetles, highly unusual for such tombs, which were believed to symbolize the sun god, Ra. Unas Pyramid, Saqqara. King Unas, 2465–2325 BC, ruled during the 5th dynasty, and his pyramid at Saqqara was once 141 feet, 43 m, tall, but it fell into decay after his death, and later Egyptian kings removed and reused most of the stones. The pyramid has long been in a sorry state, but you can still see an inscription left by Prince Khemwaset, the son of Ramesses II and high priest of Ptah in Memphis, who restored the monument in the 13th century BC. Funerary masks, or death masks, were placed over the faces of mummies. They resembled the deceased, so they could help the soul, Ka, find its body in the afterlife. Pictured here is an artifact thought to be Prince Khemwaset's funerary mask, which was found in the Serapeum of Saqqara, a burial place near Memphis. The Unas pyramid was the first of its kind to feature pyramid texts, a modern-day name given to spells, or utterances, which adorned tomb walls and helped the spirit navigate its journey to the underworld. These were instructional texts, and no two were the same, although one seemingly essential spell that was frequently included discussed the sun god Ra. Inside King Unas's burial chamber was the sarcophagus. The chamber's ceiling was beautifully patterned with gold stars against a night blue sky. While the contents were robbed long before excavations could begin, the mummified remains of a left arm, hand and skull were found amongst the debris. Could these belong to the former pharaoh? Also found at the Saqqara site was this thin gold band measuring 90 centimeters, placed among the mummy bandages of Prince Ptah Shepsis. Dating back to 2323–2150 BC, red carnelian, gemstone, and volcanic glass beads form angular, geometric patterns, while hieroglyphics are inscribed on the buckle. Teti Pyramid, Saqqara. The Teti Pyramid was once 172 feet, 52.5 meters, tall and housed the deceased King Teti, the first pharaoh of the 6th dynasty, roughly 2345–2323 BC, although sources vary. Located in Saqqara, the pyramid was constructed with a core of stone blocks encased in limestone. Inside were typical painted reliefs depicting offerings to the gods, plus star-patterned ceilings and 3 niches which may have held statues of the king. Today the site looks more like a lopsided mound, but it hasn't completely collapsed and you can still take a tour inside. While many of the pyramid's external blocks have been looted over the years, interesting artifacts have been recovered, and a large cemetery was found in front of the pyramid housing the remains of Teti's officials. Pictured here is a comb believed to be from the tomb of Teti himself. The intricate item is made of wood and is only 11 centimeters long. It's on display at New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. Teti's burial chamber was located beneath the pyramid, along with his well-preserved basalt sarcophagus. Like the Unas pyramid, the Teti pyramid's walls were also adorned with pyramid texts. These funerary texts first appeared in the 5th dynasty of the Old Kingdom, 2465–2323 BC, and were succeeded by so-called coffin texts during the Middle Kingdom, inscriptions found inside sarcophagi that tended to focus on the underworld. Both went on to influence the New Kingdom's Book of the Dead. In 2022, archaeologists digging at the Saqqara site discovered hundreds of coffins and well-preserved mummies dating to the New Kingdom, approximately 1550 to 1070 BC, in a series of interconnected tunnels at the Teti Pyramid. Some of the artifacts may even belong to Tutankhamun's closest generals and advisors. Statues of the god Ptah Sokar, Shabtis, a metal axe and pieces of an ancient Egyptian game were also found, with a selection due to go on display at the Grand Egyptian Museum when it opens in late spring 2024. Pyramid of Neith, Saqqara. At the same excavations, archaeologists also uncovered the pyramid of a previously unknown Egyptian queen named Neith. Pictured here is the excavated site, with the Teti and Djoser pyramids visible in the background. Neith was likely named after the Egyptian goddess of creation, wisdom, weaving and war, as well as being worshipped as a funerary goddess. The Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead is an umbrella term for a series of ancient Egyptian texts. Specific chants, or utterances, were typically copied onto papyrus scrolls and placed in tombs, like the fragment from the tomb of Theban scribe Ani in Luxor pictured here, which dates back to 1250 BC and is on display at the British Museum. This scene depicts the Hall of Judgment, with Ani muttering spell 30b as his heart is weighed on the scales of justice, determining whether he'd make it to paradise or not. Spells from the Book of the Dead also adorned mummy bandages and even Tutankhamun's golden death mask. In early 2023, archaeologists at Saqqara made a remarkable discovery, a 52-foot, 16 m papyrus scroll containing spells from the Book of the Dead. It was the first complete papyrus discovery in a full century, and will undoubtedly enhance modern understandings of ancient Egyptian belief in magic. Currently, the lengthy papyrus is being restored at the Egyptian Museum Laboratory in Cairo, and it's hoped the epic document will eventually go on display at the all-new Grand Egyptian Museum in Giza. Valley of the Queens, Luxor. This colorful painting of Queen Nefertari was found in her tomb in the Valley of the Queens in Luxor, ancient Thebes. The royal lady was buried in a small rock-cut temple and is depicted here playing a popular ancient Egyptian game called Senet. The game had symbolic meaning. Senet meant passing, and it was seen as a parallel for the journey into the afterlife. Tutankhamun's tomb is one of the most famous in the Valley of the Kings, even though it wasn't discovered until 1922. His legendary funerary mask was made from 22 pounds, 10 kilograms, of solid gold, as well as lapis lazuli, quartz, glass and obsidian. His body was wrapped in resin-soaked bandages and was accompanied by items that would help him into the afterlife. Some have speculated that the tomb he was found in seems secondhand. Could it have been intended for his stepmother, Queen Nefertiti? Ornate jewelry was commonly stored inside Egyptian pyramids, either as divine offerings or to accompany the deceased into the afterlife. This spectacular scarab bracelet is just one of the items found inside Tutankhamun's tomb. Formed from gold and lapis lazuli, the intricate trinket is a gorgeous example of ancient craftsmanship. Regardless of gender or status, the Egyptians loved jewelry, and over the centuries endless precious charms and ornaments have been discovered. Sandals and toe stalls, golden toe coverings, were discovered on many Egyptian mummies, including Tutankhamun. Pictured here is a replica of a pair recovered from King Tut's tomb, where some 80 pairs were found in total. These funerary items served symbolic purposes. On each sole are figures and arches representing Egypt's 9 traditional enemies, which the pharaohs symbolically trod on. Royal Necropolis of Tanis, Nile Delta. In 1939, French Egyptologist Pierre Montet discovered the Royal Necropolis of Tanis. The underground site was almost completely untouched, which was hugely significant as not a single fully intact royal tomb had been found in Egypt until Montet's find. Kings and princes from the 21st and 22nd dynasties were buried in the necropolis, complete with stone sarcophagi, silver coffins and copious amounts of gold and silver. Dubbed the Tanis treasures, Montet's discovery was just as remarkable as Howard Carter's Tutankhamun find. This striking silver coffin is arguably the most famous of the Tanis treasures. The priceless coffin contained the mummy of Shoshenq II, a 22nd dynasty pharaoh unknown until Montet's discovery. Unusually, the coffin uses a falcon instead of the king's head, and the miniatures surrounding his coffin contained his organs, a stark contrast to the canopic jars more commonly used. Also found inside Shoshenq II's tomb was this breastplate-like collar. While the colors have faded slightly, you can still get a sense of just how opulent it must have been. The jewelry piece is shaped like a falcon and depicts the goddess Nekhbet, who often appeared in vulture form and hovered above kings holding the Shen, circle, or sun disk, to represent eternity. This beaded necklace was found in King Susen's I's tomb. The 2 rows of beads are made from lapis lazuli with 2 golden beads in the middle, and date back to roughly 1069 to 945 BC. Unusually, there's an Assyrian inscription on one of the beads, and historians are still unsure as to why this foreign item was found in an Egyptian king's tomb. Wenja was an army general, high dignitary and high priest during King Susen's I's reign, circa 1044 to 994 BC. While Wenja wasn't of royal descent, his tomb was uncovered inside the royal necropolis, suggesting that he was a figure of great importance. His funerary mask is detailed with a slight smile and the inlaid eyes are made of glass, but you'll spot that the ears aren't symmetrical, the left protrudes further than the right. Discovered inside the tomb of King Amenemope, a 21st dynasty pharaoh, was this detailed pectoral brooch. At the center is a lapis lazuli scarab touching the golden sun disk, representing rebirth. The scarab is flanked by the goddesses Isis and Nephthys, who protected the wearer, while along the bottom runs a cartouche, an inscription of the king's name. Tomb of Meru, Luxor. In February 2023, Egypt opened one of its most ancient monuments to the public for the first time. The 4,000-year-old tomb of Meru, situated on the Nile's western bank in Luxor, was built for a high-ranking official in the court of King Mentuhotep II, who died in 2004 BC. The tomb, located on the North Assisive necropolis, is close to the mortuary temple of Mentuhotep II. Inside the rock-hewn tomb is a collection of elaborate murals and a stone sarcophagus, which Egyptology enthusiasts are now able to enjoy. Meru's tomb was recently restored by a joint team of archaeologists from the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities and the University of Warsaw, Poland. It's not the first time the tomb has been touched. In 1996, some of the wall paintings were restored by an Italian team. The wall paintings are especially significant, because the technique of painting directly onto lime plaster is unusual. As you might imagine, Luxor is filled with other ancient Egyptian treasures and tombs. Like the tomb of Meru, the Medinet Habu necropolis, pictured, dates to the 11th dynasty. In later generations, it became a fortified town, religious shrine and even an administrative center for a nearby women's village. Other sites worth seeing near Luxor include the mortuary temple of female pharaoh Hatshepsut, the temple at Karnak and the Valley of the Kings.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.